I'd like to extend that a little bit too, because with people like Templeton, for instance, it's not just this matter of millions of years of death that's a problem for them. For instance, when Lee Strobel interviewed him for his book, The Case for Faith, he asked him, what was the one thing that caused you to lose your faith in God? And he said it was a picture in Life magazine of a woman in Africa with her dead child. There was a very bad drought there, and the baby had died, and she had this look of sorrow and anguish on her face. And he said, I came to the conclusion that there could not possibly be a loving God when all that was needed to save that child was rain. And God could do that if there were a God.
Right.
But then he extended it further. He said that then I thought about hell. I couldn't even make someone hold their hand in a candle. So if a loving God, couldn't possibly send you to hell just because you don't believe what he wants you to believe. So there's a great deal more to this.
If I could take off of that, I can't believe in God unless that God acts and responds the way I think a reasonable and benevolent person would respond. Of course, it doesn't take into account anything about human sin and selfishness and the fact that many people are hungry in this world because people are quite greedy and things of that nature. You know, it strikes me that this issue of death before the fall has so many common bonds with the problem of evil overall.
It does.
Yes.
I have this view of the way God has to work, and if he doesn't respond the way I think he should, the idea that carnivorous activity is not consistent with the character of God is a inference in someone's mind. It's not stated in Scripture. So it's somebody is appealing to this rather than being uttered as a doctrine of biblical faith.
It does seem to me that for Templeton, even more so, it's a human suffering is a problem for him. And that gets back, I think, too, to Alfred Lord Tennyson's poem In Memoriam, because we hear this phrase, nature red in tooth and claw, constantly. And it's interesting that the reason the poem was written is because he's struggling with the death of the fiancé of his sister, who died just before they were supposed to be married. He was a young man, and it just really hit Tennyson very hard. Why would someone like that be struck down just in the prime of life when he hadn't even really accomplished much yet? When you look at this whole poem plus the comments on it, you see that Tennyson is struggling just like David, just like Job. There's all these issues, hard questions. What do you do with those? But it's interesting to me too that in the very end that Tennyson really comes back to God just like David did and like Job did, because he said the different moods of sorrow as in a drama are dramatically given in his poem, and my conviction that fears, doubts, and suffering will find answer and relief only through faith in a God of love. So ultimately, in spite of looking at all these things that he saw and wondering how they fit, he still came back and clung to the God of love.
Yes.
This has been a presentation of the Ministry of Reasons to Believe. If you would like to know more about other resources offered by Reasons to Believe or have questions about issues related to science and the Christian faith, please visit our website at reasons.org or call us toll-free at 800-482-7836.